Video 20 Part 2 of 2, Outputs of the Identify Stakeholder process in the PMBOK Initial Process Group. The objective of this video is to develop a WBS to present the deliverables produced during the execution of the process Identify Stakeholder that belongs to the initiating process group. Click the like button, subscribe to my channel and share with others. Thank you. The Identify Stakeholders process produce important deliverables for the entire project development. The first important deliverable is Stakeholder Register. In the Identify Stakeholders process, which is part of the project Stakeholder Management Knowledge Area, the Stakeholder Register is the primary output. This document captures essential information about the stakeholders identified during the process, such as their interests, influence, and potential impact on the project. The Stakeholder Register typically includes 1. Identification information. Include the name, title or position, role in the project or organization, and contact information for each stakeholder identified. 2. Assessment information. For each stakeholder identified, include the stakeholder's expectations, also include the level of influence, which can be high, medium or low. Also include the level of interest, which can be high, medium or low. Include the attitude towards the project, which can be favorable, neutral or resistant. And finally, include the main requirements or interests. 3. Stakeholder classification. For each stakeholder identified, include whether they are an internal or external stakeholder. Also include their power and interest grid classification. For example, they have high power and high interest, or they have low power and low interest, or they have high power but low interest, or they have low power but high interest. Also include other categorization methods, such as whether they are a promoter stakeholder, a neutral stakeholder, or a detractor stakeholder. 4. Stakeholder engagement approach. Includes initial strategies for engaging stakeholders, potential risks or issues related to stakeholders, and any specific actions needed to manage their engagement. In summary, the Stakeholder Register is a living document that is updated throughout the project lifecycle as new stakeholders are identified or as their influence, interest, or attitudes change. It serves as the foundation for the planned stakeholder engagement process, where detailed strategies for managing stakeholder relationships are developed. In the stakeholder identification process, the second important deliverable is change requests. During the stakeholder identification process, you may discover new information or insights that may lead to the identification of necessary changes to the project. For example, you may identify a stakeholder whose requirements were not previously considered, leading to the need to adjust the project scope, schedule, or resources. Or you may discover that a stakeholder's influence or level of interest is greater or lesser than initially assumed, requiring changes to the stakeholder engagement approach or project strategy. If such changes are identified, they would be formalized as change requests and processed through the Perform Integrated Change Control process. These change requests would then be evaluated, approved or rejected, and, if approved, implemented as part of the project. In summary, while the direct output of stakeholder identification is the Stakeholder Register, you have a potential indirect output in change requests, when new information about stakeholders requires changes to the project. In the Identify Stakeholders process, the third important deliverable is project management plan updates. During the Identify Stakeholders process, you may uncover new information or insights that could lead to updates to the project management plan. For example, if newly identified stakeholders have significant influence or specific requirements, you may need to update the stakeholder engagement plan, which is a component of the project management plan. Changes in stakeholder expectations or project scope might require updates to other parts of the project management plan, such as the scope management plan, communications management plan, or risk management plan. These updates would be formalized and integrated into the project management plan as part of the monitor and control project work or perform integrated change control processes, depending on the nature of the changes. In summary, while the direct output of Identify Stakeholders is the stakeholder register, you have a potential indirect output in that you can update the project management plan if new stakeholder information requires changes to project plans or strategies. In the Identify Stakeholders process, the fourth important deliverable is project documents updates. As part of identifying stakeholders, you may uncover new information that requires updates to other project documents. These updates could include: (1) Assumption log. Updates to assumptions about stakeholders, their needs, or their influence on the project. 2. Issue log. Documentation of any issues or concerns raised by stakeholders during the identification process. 3. Risk register. Addition of new risks related to stakeholder expectations, attitudes, or influence. Updates to existing risks based on stakeholder input or newly identified stakeholder dynamics. 4. Requirements documentation. Updates to project requirements if stakeholders provide new or revised requirements during the identification process. 5. Change log. Documentation of any requested changes resulting from stakeholder identification, such as changes to scope, schedule, or resources. 6. Communications management plan. Updates to communication strategies or plans based on the needs and preferences of newly identified stakeholders. 7. Stakeholder engagement plan. Updates to engagement strategies or approaches based on the analysis of stakeholder interests, influence, and attitudes. These updates ensure that all relevant project documents reflect the latest information about stakeholders and their potential impact on the project. In summary, while the direct output of the Identify Stakeholders feature is the stakeholder register, you have a potential indirect output as you can update project documents such as the Assumptions Register, Issue Register, Risk Register, Requirements documentation, and others as needed. Finishing this video, we will have in the next videos: 1. Creation of WBS for different projects using WBS Schedule Pro. 2. Examples of project plans using MS Project. And many other videos. Don't forget to give a thumbs up if you like this video and want us to continue with new topics. Subscribe to the channel. All content is free. You can also comment suggesting topics you would like to see on this channel. Thank you.